Shashank, we've seen the EVX and the Jimny. What is the sentiment like, on behalf of Maruti?
Yeah, very positive, full of energy. We are very excited. It's not only a foray into SUVs in a big way, but also you saw a global unveiling of the electric SUV from Suzuki. And because it's a global unveiling, it's happening in India, it's a very proud moment for us. So the sentiments are extremely positive.
Right. The EVX, it kind of announces an entirely new chapter for Maruti Suzuki, a full electric platform. What is the kind of expectations from that vehicle for the consumer as well? What is the intent with that consumer? What kind of consumer you wanted to touch out to?
Yeah, so as you could see, it's a 4.3 meter vehicle, so it's like a mid SUV. It's a largish SUV. The platform, as you rightly pointed out, it's a born new platform, which means that it's not a modified from an existing ICE vehicle. That gives you a lot of freedom to modify the wheelbase, etc. And you see that the wheelbase is very long, and that is very advantageous to consumers, especially people who are looking in this category for extra space and flexibility of space. The extra wheelbase allows you to have much larger interior space and also the flexibility to use the interior architecture as well as the exterior architecture. Secondly, if you have seen the specs, it's got a 60 kWh battery, which means it's a large battery, and it has therefore a large range, which is 550 kilometers. And of course, it was announced that we would bring it in the financial year 24-25.
Right. One of the challenges that Maruti has always faced is that you've been in the mass market for such a long time. The association with bringing cars that are affordable, good value for money, has been cemented with Maruti's DNA as well. But the Grand Vitara kind of established the fact that you could also do something in the premium segment for an upwardly mobile customer. Do you think the EVX and products like that, because inherently electrics are also more expensive, but do you think the EVX also will be able to achieve what the Grand Vitara achieved for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because our DNA was completely value for money. High fuel efficiency, low maintenance cost, and our tagline was "Count on us" earlier, and later on the way of life. But that's because the market itself was largely skewed, and the customer criteria for purchase was largely on value and functionality rather than on aspiration or design. But as the market changed, obviously market leader also has to change. In fact, any company has to change. And we brought in the Nexa. And when we brought in the Nexa, it was to give the consumers a much better experience as far as car buying is concerned. And it clicked very well. In fact, Nexa is the number 3 brand. If you look at, if it was an individual OEM brand, it would be the 3rd largest. So we did address to that aspirational aspect of the Indian consumers, which developed as the economy grew. And Grand Vitara, as you rightly pointed out, is a great example. And EVX and the electric vehicles inherently being more expensive, I think we have established a strong base and a credential that Maruti Suzuki can sell vehicles which are in the higher range. In fact, our XL6 and Ertiga are also in that range of 12 lakh, 15 lakh plus. So we have established that fact. And also remember, the market itself has moved a little bit towards the higher price segment. So clearly we dominate the lower side, and we will continue to dominate it. That's our strategy. And going forward, we also look into forays into the segments which we were not there earlier.
Right. Sustainability seems to be one of the catchphrases here at Maruti today. We're seeing a lot of sustainable movements at the pavilion. But what you're also seeing is that electrification may not necessarily be the only direction that you're following in, because we're seeing so many other cars over here with alternate fuel sources as well. What's the intent over there? I mean, are you spreading yourselves out too thin, or do you believe that there is a strong market case for all of these alternate fuels as well?
Yeah, I think we have to achieve our emission targets, but be technology agnostic. In other words, not put all the eggs in the basket in one basket. And even though there is a general consensus in the industry that EVs are become mainstream going forward in the future, but while it will become mainstream, what is not a consensus is when it will happen, because that would depend on many things: battery prices, new technology of battery, how electricity is produced in different. So the adoption rate will be different in different countries, the different categories of vehicles, and it is expected. That's what the research analysts say, that by 2030, about 17 to 20% of the passenger vehicle market would be electric. Now, if you do a quick calculation, taking a CAGR of about 6.1, 6.2% from here on till 2030, the Indian domestic market will sell something like a 44 million cars, out of which 3.5 million will be electric. So, what happens to those balance 41 million cars, which are actually a overwhelming majority still? So you need to do something about the emissions there, and that is why Maruti Suzuki believes that for a long period of time, till the EVs actually become mainstream fully, you would require to reduce and adopt technologies which reduces emission in other ways. That's why we've gone into alternative fuels like CNG, very clean fuel, great fuel efficiency. Second, as you saw, the flex fuel. We have displayed the Wagoner, which can take blended fuels up to 85% ethanol. Third, biogas. Fourth, the hybrid and the strong hybrid. And the Grand Vitara is a clear example of great success. So that is the reason why we believe, to achieve emission norms, we will have to use, and we have to be technology agnostic, and we have to use a mix of technologies, and that's what we are trying to do.
Shashank san, Maruti is coming out of the electrification plan. You're talking about 2024. Is Maruti late to this entire electrification party? Because we're seeing competitors in the same space, and we've seen some other competitors yesterday, some other manufacturers yesterday as well, who've announced much stronger intents with a lot more products coming to this. Do you believe that you would be kind of left behind? Because Maruti's always been the pioneer in various segments, establishing the lead first, by being out there first. But electrification is something that you've come late to.
I know there are two views to it, but the reason why the electric vehicles haven't really been adopted in a big way in India, and in fact globally at the moment, globally it's about 2.5%, but in India last year, if you take last year's numbers, less than 1%. 21,000 EVs were sold last year in India, in a market which was 30 lakh 70,000, so that's less than 0.7%. So the penetration is not so much, and the reason why penetration is not so much is because, one, the cost of acquisition of vehicles of EVs is very high, and second, the charging infrastructure not being there gives a range anxiety to consumers. So we need to take care of consumer convenience before we get into it in a big way. And also remember, if you are wanting to tackle cost of acquisition and you really want to increase the penetration of EVs, you will need to bring the cost of batteries down. Now, battery costs can come down either because of new technologies available in the battery, which at the moment is not happening, because we have found that battery prices have sort of plateaued in the last couple of years. Lithium prices have gone up. So we need to do something to bring battery costs down. And one of the big methods of doing it is to localize. And that's the reason why Suzuki has announced 9,000 or 10,000 crores of investment in BEVs and batteries. So that's our way of trying to bring the costs down so that we can make these batteries in India. Secondly, the charging infrastructure is in the process. And that is the reason why we will have to be very sure about customer convenience and customer satisfaction before we bring in the electric vehicles. And in this intervening period till 2024-25, when the EVX will come, that is the time when we hope that we will build up that sort of convenience for the customer.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.